Now, regarding the main discussion, we have taken the most important news for today, which appeared in The Hindu and in Indian Express at multiple locations, multiple pages. And this is one of the important rulings or one of the important judgments by the Supreme Court. Okay, so yesterday Supreme Court has given a judgment on same-sex marriages, okay, or heterosexual couples, and Supreme Court said that Supreme Court cannot legalize same-sex marriage, okay, and Supreme Court has underlined this issue to the legislature by saying that legalizing same-sex marriage is what Supreme Court can't do at this moment, and the legislature should make rules for it, right? And now this topic of legalizing same-sex marriage is important for our GS paper 2 under the syllabus head Indian Constitution, its historical underpinnings, the evolution of the Constitution, features, amendments, significant provisions and basic structure. Okay? And this is also important for our GS paper 2 social justice under the vulnerable sections. As we know that LGBTQ community or transgenders are vulnerable sections. Okay? Now, based on these broad themes, we have seen many questions. Like in the year 2019, we saw this question in prelims. And in the year 2017, we found the mains question which said that examine the scope of fundamental rights in the light of latest judgment of the Supreme Court on right to privacy. Now, based on the similar line, one can expect a question that examine the scope of fundamental rights for transgenders or LGBTQ community, right? Or the evolution of their rights. In the similar lines, we can expect this question. Okay. Now, let's proceed further. The judgment which Supreme Court gave yesterday basically deals with 4 key issues. And what are these 4 key issues? The first issue is that it deals with 4 questions. The first question is whether there is a fundamental right to marriage in India. Okay. The other issue Supreme Court dealt was whether the words in the Special Marriage Act of 1954 could be given any gender neutral meaning, right? We will discuss Special Marriage Act. The third question was whether it was regarding the queer couple's right to adopt child. Okay. And the fourth question was whether a civil union can be realized under an Indian law. Okay. Now, based on these questions, we will discuss these questions and related judgment of Supreme Court. But prior to it, let us understand what are the evolution of rights for homosexuals in India. Okay. Now, for it, there are some important judgments which you should know. The first such judgment was in the year 2014 and in the landmark case of National Legal Services Authority versus Union of India, or the NALSA case. Okay. So this is a landmark case, as under this case, transgender were recognized as the third gender. Apart from male and female, transgender were recognized as a third gender, and which paved away the path to give them legal rights, to give them further more rights in future. Okay, so this was an important judgment which you should know, NALSA judgment, by recognizing transgender as third gender. Okay, now in the year 2017, there was another landmark judgment which was Justice K.S. Puttaswamy versus Union of India. So this is a landmark case in which Supreme Court recognized that right to privacy is a fundamental right. Okay, and this recognition of privacy as a fundamental right under Article 21 paved the way for greater recognition and protection of LGBTQ rights, among others, and their right to privacy and personal autonomy. Why so? Because sexual orientation, as per this judgment, sexual orientation is also a private. Sexual orientation is private and it is a part of life to dignity under Article 21, right? So this is also an important judgment which you should know. Further going down, in the year 2018, an important case was Navtesh Singh Johar versus Union of India case. Okay. Now, what did this case do was it repealed Section 377. Now, what was Section 377? It was British colonial era act which criminalized homosexuality. Okay, and by this judgment, this Section 377 was repealed, or homosexuality was decriminalized. Okay. And what happened, and further in the further down in the evolution, last year in the year 2022, Supreme Court recognized atypical family units, the existence of atypical family units. Supreme Court recognized that family, the structure of family is changing, and it it recognized atypical family units. These are the family units which can consist of single parents, which can consist of transgenders, which can consist of same gender couples. Okay. And what Supreme Court said was that all types of atypical family units are entitled to legal recognition under various social welfare legislation like a typical heterosexual family units. This means that this means that atypical family units are also obligated, that the state is obligated to give them equal rights, equal social welfare rights as compared to a heterosexual family units. Okay. So in this evolution, we saw that how this demand how we saw the process of evolution in for the transgender community or LGBTQ community, and we saw that earlier their fight was regarding the right to recognition, and now their fight is for the rights of greater order, and presently it is regarding the right to marriage. Okay. Now since we saw the evolution of rights to LGBTQ community, now let us now when we discuss these questions, let us see what are these key issues and what were the judgments of Supreme Court regarding these key issues. Okay. Now first question, whether right to marry is a fundamental right in India. Okay. Now under this there was a petition from LGBTQ community that the Supreme Court must address the denial of right to marriage to the LGBTQ community. Okay. Now the reasoning behind this was that if the right to marriage is recognized as a fundamental right in India, then this would cast an obligation to the state to protect the right. This means that if right to marriage is a fundamental right in India, and if this right is not given to the LGBTQ community under Article 226 or under Article 226 or under Article 32, they can file writ petition in High Court and Supreme Court respectively for enforcement of their right. Okay. Only if right to marriage was a fundamental right. Okay. And this was what petitioners were demanding, to recognize right to marriage as a fundamental right. But now let's see what the latest judgment of yesterday, what the Supreme Court said. So in the majority verdict, Supreme Court said that right to marriage in India presently is not a fundamental right, and it is a statutory right. Okay. So this was a major defeat to what petitioners were expecting. But further, after saying that right to marriage is not a fundamental right in India, Supreme Court also said that right to enter into any union, or which it said as right to relationship, is unrelated to sexual orientation, and this is a feature of fundamental right in Article 19 and Article 21. So in layman terms, this means that though Supreme Court did not recognize right to marriage as a fundamental right, but this does not mean that homosexual couples cannot live together, as government has already acknowledged that homosexual couples have the right to cohabit, they have the right to choose one's partner, they can live together, they can choose their own partner, and they have right to one's sexual orientation, and these are a fundamental rights given to them under Article 21. But as of now, right to marriage is not a fundamental right. Okay. So this was a basic development in this case which happened. And further moving towards the second question, that was regarding the interpretation of Special Marriage Act of 1954. Okay. Now the petitioner said that the petitioners wanted to recognize same-sex marriage by allowing a gender-neutral interpretation of Special Marriage Act. Okay. Before this, let's understand what is a marriage. Okay. So marriage is a social institution. Okay. And marriage is a social institution which is given sanctity, and this is given sanctity either by religion, say there are personal laws for it, or either marriage as an institution is given sanctity by state. Okay. Now for example, there are example of personal laws like Hindu Marriage Act of the year 1954, like Muslim Marriage Act, Christian Marriage Act, and these are the personal laws by which marriage as an institution is given sanctity. Okay, and there is other law which is Special Marriage Act of the year 1954, and under this act, the sanctity to this marriage for whom? For interfaith couples, for interfaith couples or intercaste couples is given by the state, right? Under this act. Uh, Now, so this is Special Marriage Act. Now, what did this petitioner demanded? They wanted they wanted recognition of marriage. Now, you might think that if LGBTQ community has the right to cohabit or live together, they have right to choose one's partner, then why are they even wanting this right to marry? Okay, like what is the significant change which will happen after they get this right to marriage? Okay, now this is that this recognition of their marriage also confers, or we can say that recognition of marriage also confers some associated benefits with it, right? Now, what are these associated benefits? Like, if we talk about LGBTQ community, if if their marriage is recognized, the couple can open a joint bank account, they can claim insurance benefits. Okay, they have right of succession. For example, if one of the spouse dies, the other can inherit his property. Okay, there are benefits regarding adoption. So we can say there are various benefits, say regarding insurance benefits, regarding they can open bank accounts, and this joint bank accounts, which may seem insignificant to any heterogeneous person, but for LGBTQ community this may be also a privilege. Okay, and the right of succession, okay, inheritance. So this is why, because marriage as an institution, the recognition of marriage gives some civil rights to this community. So this is the demand why they wanted a legal sanctity, okay, to marriage. This is but now we see what Supreme Court said. Supreme Court clearly pointed out that the Special Marriage Act by the Parliament only mentions heterosexual couples. That is, it gives sanctity to the marriage between heterosexual couples. But this Special Marriage Act does not say anything about homosexual couples, right? So Supreme Court said that it is the prerogative of the legislative. Okay. So by so interpretation of Special Marriage Act is the prerogative of the legislative, and at this point of time Supreme Court doesn't want to do this, and Supreme Court clearly says that if this is in the domain of legislature, right? And presently, so this gender neutral interpretation of Special Marriage Act, where the term marriage between a male and female was to be replaced by marriage between two spouses. Now presently this could not be done, as this as altering or interpretation of this act is with the legislature, right? Now another issue is regarding the queer couple's right to adopt a child. Okay, now presently the petitions by the LGBTQ community was that the guidelines of Central Adoption Resource Authority CARA is discriminatory against queer couples who cannot legally marry. Now, what is CARA? CARA is a statutory body which is under the Ministry of Ministry of Women and Child Development, and this is a statutory body which was formed under the Juvenile Justice Act of 2015. Okay. Now under this, what happens is that CARA has given the right to adopt a child to a single male. Say, a single male can adopt a child, okay, or a single female can adopt a child. And CARA has also given this right to adopt a child to a LGBTQ or a trans or a LGBTQ, we can say. So LGBTQ community can also adopt child, okay. And now these are individual or single male, female, or transgender. But if we talk about the guidelines regarding the couple adoption, so in case of a heterosexual couple, in case of a heterosexual couple, that is association between a man and women, they have a right to adopt a child, but only after 2 years of their marriage. Okay, after 2 years of their marriage. But the trans community says that they are being discriminated because a trans couple or a homosexual couple, since the marriage of this since the marriage of this homosexual couple is not legally sanctioned, right? Is not sanctioned, so that's why it's not recognized. That's why this trans couple cannot legally marry. Okay, and that's why any homosexual couple cannot adopt a child, right? So they feel that this is discriminatory against these transgender couples, right? Now, in this regard, what the Supreme Court said was, Supreme Court said that this change in this guidelines by CARA, this cannot be achieved by judiciary, and rather this remedy is to be provided by legislature. Again, the same thing, that judiciary cannot intervene in this issue since it is in the domain of legislature, right? And now let's move on to the third question, to the last or the fourth question, fourth issue, which was regarding civil unions for queer couples. Okay, now what is a civil union? Civil union is a some kind of legal recognition to same sex marriage. Okay, no, same sex couples, this is not marriage. Civil union is not marriage, but it is some kind of legal recognition to same sex couples. Then USA has given recognition to same sex marriage, but earlier it followed the route of civil union, and this is some kind of legal recognition. Now, what was the petition? So there was a petition, so there was a question regarding that, can civil union, as for some time it could give some legal recognition to transgenders, and can it be given to the queer couples? But the transgenders or the LGBTQ community was of the opinion that this would send a message that the homosexual relationships are inferior to the heterosexual couples, because civil unions are not an equal alternative to marriage, right? So they thought that this would mean that homosexual relationships, since they are getting recognition under civil unions but not under marriage, they are somewhat inferior to the heterosexual marriage, right? And this is what they didn't want. But still, the Supreme Court has said again that the court or Supreme Court cannot prescribe a choice of civil unions to queer people. And this again is what a legislature can do, right? Now, we have seen the development with Supreme Court. We have seen the judgment of Supreme Court and the development regarding it. Now, let's also see what are some positives regarding the judgments of yesterday, right? The Supreme Court has given some directions, certain directions to the state government and to the union government. And what are these directions? The first direction is regarding the non-discrimination of LGBTQ community in terms of access to goods and services. That is, there shouldn't be any discrimination to this community in their access to goods and services. And this is the directive given by Supreme Court to the central government and state government. Another directive given is to increase the public awareness about the rights of the LGBTQ community, and to increase the awareness of the people, and to uh, to establish this notion that this LGBTQ is they are like they are fully functional humans, and this is not a certain kind of mental illness or disease as is a common perception. Okay, this is not what I am saying, this is quoted by Supreme Court, right? And now the other directive is to establish a helpline for queer community. Now this helpline is to be established such that this queer community, if it is in any kind of distress, if it is be if the community, if any member of the community is being harassed, or any kind of violence is being inflicted upon him, then there should be a helpline so that that person can connect. And then one of the important thing which Supreme Court directed was for the establishment of safe houses or the establishment of garima grahas. Garima grahas should be created in every district of India to offer protection or shelter to the queer couples, right? Also, Supreme Court has said that the forced operations of intersex children should cease to exist at immediately. That is, sometimes there are certain forced operations of these intersex children to change their gender, okay? But these children may not, they may be below a certain age and they may not be able to give consent to this operation. So the Supreme Court has said that such kind of operation without the consent of these children should not be done, okay, should be immediately seized or stopped. Now another important thing is that the Solicitor General of India said that the central government is thinking for the formation of community for the formation of committee to decide the rights and entitlements of person in the queer unions. That is, there is a certain that a committee is to be established which will see regarding the rights of transgender community as a family in ration cards, allowing the queer couples to nominate for joint bank account, allowing them the right from pension, gratuity, or other certain social benefits, right? So for it, a committee is to be established by the central government. Now, after it, Supreme Court has also given some directive to the police. These directives are regarding, the first directive is regarding no harassment of the queer couples by the police. And this may be like police may sometime may like to not summon them in police stations or to visit their residences solely to inquire about their gender identity, right? So this is to prevent any kind of harassment or to the trans community. Okay. The other directive given to the police is the freedom of choice. That is, the queer individual should not be forced to return to their families if they wish not to return, right? And there is also a directive regarding their protection of freedom and to protect them against violence, right? That is, when a queer individual files a complaint against family, inhibiting their freedom or the family is inflicting any kind of violence against them, then the police should verify the genuineness of the complaint and should provide appropriate protection to this community, right? So in conclusion, we can say that the government should work on implementing these directives, and also with it India needs a separate anti discrimination law which prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation. Presently, we have various anti discrimination mechanisms, but these are not consolidated enough. So India needs a separate anti discrimination law for LGBTQ community in order to prevent them from discrimination based on sexual orientation, right?